Getting the hard away Southern T back with another EP. And I'm back here after this great fight week. Yeah, I'm back after this great fight week. We had Devin Haney. We had Devin Haney versus Jojo Diaz this fight weekend. And we had Tank Davis versus Eastside Cruz this fight weekend. Today on this EP, I'm here to talk about the post-fight reaction from Devin Haney versus Jojo Diaz. Give y'all my thoughts and opinions on that, what I think about it. The first thing first, I want to say is that this was a very exciting fight. Shout out to both fighters, stepping in the ring, handling business, doing their thing. Jojo Diaz now has two losses. He only has losses to Gary Russell and now Devin Haney. And Jojo Diaz, in my eyes, is still a contender. In this great sport of boxing, he has nothing to be ashamed of in losing to Devin Haney and Gary Russell Jr. Both are two of the top fighters in the boxing game today. Jojo Diaz came out and impressed me. Uh, I knew that it would be like a tough fight, but I think Jojo Diaz made it even more interesting than I thought in the beginning. And I'm one of the people who thought that this fight, would be kind of tight, close, interesting from the beginning. I called this fight a split. Shout out my guy Kevin Jones. What's good, bro? In here giving my fight prediction, my post fight reaction. I called this fight in my post. I called this fight in my prediction a split decision. Devin Haney won by unanimous decision, but every round of that fight was extremely close. You know what I mean? Some people, my co-host Miss Destiny said that it was a hard fight for her to watch. She didn't like the way that Devin Haney fought Jojo Diaz. And I seen a lot of people had questions after the fight with Devin Haney and Jojo Diaz. I personally was impressed with Jojo for different reasons. But you had some saying that Devin Haney gets hit too much. His defense might be his defense. His defense might not be what we thought it was type deal. You know what I mean? Jojo hit him too easy. Linares hit him too easy. All that kind of deal. I'm one of the people who believe that in this particular fight, with Linares, Devin Haney boxed perfect. Really, Linares won. Majority of that fight. He won the first 10 rounds. Even the round where Linares caught him, Devin Haney won that round. Devin Haney won majority of those rounds, just got caught. That fight wasn't too much for me. That fight didn't mean too much to me, didn't hold too much weight on that fight. But this fight in particular, yeah, I think Devin Haney got hit a little more. I think Devin Haney, was a little more, in front of Jojo Diaz. But I think that was on purpose. So I'm not alarmed about the fact that D had, I muted D had. Can you hear me now, D had? Hold on, D had. I've been sitting here talking to y'all for 3 minutes and I've been muted, huh? Let me make sure y'all can hear me now. Hold on. Damn. I've been sitting here talking to y'all for 3 minutes. Y'all been muted. But okay, let's go and get into it. Skinny Hardaway Sudden T back here with another EP. This weekend we had two great fights. We had Devin Haney versus Jojo Diaz, and we also had Tank Davis versus Eastside Cruz. This particular EP is about Devin Haney, and I'm gonna tell y'all, how I feel about it. Give y'all my post fight reaction. Now, in this fight, in this fight, Devin Haney and both Jojo Diaz, they put on great performances. If you ask me, Jojo Diaz now has losses to Devin Haney. He has losses to Devin Haney, and he has losses to Gary Russell Jr. He has nothing to be ashamed of in those losses at all. Type deal. Jojo Diaz is still a contender in my eyes. You know what I mean? He gave Devin Haney a hell of a fight. Type deal. Uh, Jojo Diaz is one of those guys I call, he's a contender. He's a fringe contender. He's a high level, gatekeeper, high level gatekeeper. Jojo Diaz is one of those guys that will beat you if you come in unprepared. Devin Haney was victorious in his victory over Jojo Diaz this weekend. Shout out Jojo Diaz and Devin Haney. Some people in this fight they kind of felt like you there's been some questions raised about Devin Haney in this fight. Some people came out and they felt like Devin Haney got hit too much in this fight. They felt like Devin Haney's lack of power was exposed again. They feel like, well, maybe his defense may not be as good as we think because Jojo Diaz was able to come out here and have the success that he had against Devin Haney. He made it a close fight. I myself personally, I called it in my fight predictions. I called it Devin Haney by split decision. By split decision. Now Devin Haney won by unanimous decision. What I mean? I gave Devin Haney the fight 8-4, but Jojo Diaz made every single round close. You know what I mean? Every single round was a tight round. It was it was a real, it was a real battle for me at the end of those rounds to pick. Really, this guy won, they got one, this guy won, they got one. Uh, Jojo, and to answer some of the critics, Jojo did get hit. I mean, not Jojo. Devin Haney did get hit more in that fight than usual. Devin Haney. That wasn't Devin Haney's biggest defensive. That wasn't his best defensive performance at all. And that you got some people who feel like Devin Haney, had been exposed. You got some people that feel like Devin Haney had been exposed, but I'm not one of those people. I feel like Devin Haney made this fight tougher than it had to be because Devin Haney chose to do that. I think Devin Haney came out there and he had a point to prove. I think Devin Haney wanted to come out here and prove a point. And the point that Devin Haney wanted to prove in that fight last night was that he does have a chin, that he is a tough guy, and that he's not a pushover. Jojo Diaz was coming into this fight. Jojo Diaz was coming into this fight saying Jojo Diaz was coming into this fight saying that, oh, he's going to bully Haney. He's going to walk right through him. He's going to take him to the wood shop and all that. And what Devin Haney was saying before this fight was skills pay the bills, y'all. Skills pay the bills. But actually in this fight, I feel like Devin had a point to prove, and I feel like he proved it. I feel like Devin, this fight, wanted to stand there. He wanted to fight with Jojo. He wanted to bang with Jojo a little bit. And that's exactly what he did. Some people use the word exposed. I use the word, he had a point to prove. Now, a lot of people don't believe. A lot of people don't believe this or don't believe that. But I believe these fighters, especially when you're a great fighter, you dictate how the fight go. Devin Haney dictated that fight being a brawl. What Devin Haney went out there and did was he proved his point that he can go out there and he can out brawl a brawler, which is exactly what Devin Haney did. I'm going to give Jojo Diaz full credit for making it a tough fight, but I feel like Devin Haney decided to stand there a lot more than he should have, and that led to the fight being tighter or Devin Haney getting hit as much as he did. I don't think Devin Haney was exposed in this fight because I believe if Devin Haney wanted to move more and use the ring, utilize more foot movement, I believe that he could have. There were times in their fights for rounds at a time where Devin Haney just simply planted his feet and he banged with JoJo. You know what I mean? And also, people want to say Devin Haney has chin issues and all that stuff. I did not see a single chin issue last night at all. What I saw was a guy take some punches, and I saw a guy didn't move, didn't budge, didn't falter. I saw Linares hit Devin Haney right. I saw Linares hit Devin Haney right, and Devin Haney got wobbled. He wobbled for 2 rounds. JoJo hit Devin Haney a few times. He wasn't wobbled once. Linares hit JoJo. Linares hit Devin Haney a bunch of times, and he was only wobbled once. JoJo hit him a bunch of times, and he wasn't wobbled once. So if you go from a fight where you're wobbled by a power puncher, you come back to another fight, and you get hit a lot, but you don't get wobbled. That means that your chin has passed the test of whether you have a chin or not. Just like with Devin Haney and Erickson Lubin, people want to call these guys chinny for their whole careers, even though they have done hella things to show you that these guys aren't as chinny as you would like to make them. Getting knocked out, knocked down, or getting wobbled once in your career doesn't make you a chinny fighter. Could y'all do your boy a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate that. But just because you get hurt in one fight or knocked down in one fight doesn't mean that you're chinny. You know what I mean? Chinny is a guy who's always wobbled, always getting knocked out. Chris, and even Chris Algieri isn't a guy who gets knocked out cold. But let's say Chris Algieri is a guy with a weak chin, great boxer, great pro boxer, but he has a weak chin. He's a chinny guy. You can put him out if you hit him good enough. If you don't hit Chris Algieri, he might outbox you to a win. But if you could hit him, you could get him out of there. You know what I mean? That's what I consider a chinny guy, not a guy like Devin Haney or a guy like Erickson Lubin, guys who take their punches and they keep on rolling. So I think Devin Haney came out here Saturday and he proved his point that he is one of, if not the top lightweight. I think him and George Kambosos have to fight, next or the fight after next. I think it's time for them to come together and it's time to get this lightweight, undisputed thing figured out once and for all. But I was highly impressed with Devin Haney's performance over the past weekend against Jojo Diaz. No, I do not think that he got exposed because I think he chose to fight this way and he went out there and he outbrawled the brawler, kind of like Errol Spence did against Sean Porter. I think Devin Haney said, skills pay the bills, but once he got there, you know what I mean? He decided I'm going to sit here and I'm going to bang with JoJo, and I was highly impressed. And I was highly impressed with that. My guy Alex Alberto G said if JoJo moves back down to 130, he can become a champion again. I think so too, Alex Alberto G. I'm high on JoJo Diaz. He got no shame in losing to Devin Haney, no shame in losing to Gary Russell. Jojo Diaz is still a high competitor fighter in boxing and still a fighter that I like to see. Shout out Devin Haney. You went out there and you proved to me two things: that you do have a chin and that you aren't afraid to brawl and you aren't even afraid to get hit. And if you do get hit, you will be able to withstand some of those punches, being thrown your way. Shout out Devin Haney. Highly impressed with his victory this weekend. Shout out Jojo Diaz. Keep pushing, Brody. You a good fighter. Don't let nobody tell you no different. But that's all I got. Skin the Hardaway Southern T. This ain't the past. This ain't the future, but this the present. This how we rocking. And I'm out love. Shout out to my guy Kevin Jones sliding through this junk. He said, "What up, bro?" Shout out my guy to D-Hat sliding through this junk. He said, "How was Haney exposed by getting the wobble less than before?" Bingo, D-Hat. Shout out my guy to D-Hat for telling me I was muted for the first 3 minutes of this video. So make sure y'all, go past the first 3 minutes of this video. And shout out my guy Alex Alberto G. Said if JoJo, he said Tommy Fury pulled out. I saw that. I see Tyrone Woodley might get that fight. And he said if JoJo moves back down to 130, he can't become a champion. I agree with you, buddy. But that's all I got. Highly impressed with Devin Haney's performance. Think he outbrawled the brawler. Think he outbrawled the brawler. Good name, good win to have on your resume, Devin Haney. Good to hope to see much bigger things from you in the future. But that's all I got. Skin the Hardaway Southern T. This ain't the past, this ain't the future, but this the present. That's how we rocking. And I'm out. Love. Make sure y'all follow me to my Tank Davis fight breakdown and prediction video, which I will be doing next. Shout out my guy MP. What the fuck? Follow me over to the Tank Davis post fight reaction video. Great fights this weekend. Agreed.